Gold digger cheated on her boyfriend for not being rich, then found out he was a hidden billionaire. The morning light filtered through the blinds of Emily's apartment as she sipped her coffee, scrolling through Instagram with a growing knot of envy in her stomach. Her college friend Vanessa had just posted photos from her weekend getaway to the Maldives, crystal blue waters over water bungalows and champagne toasts with her investment banker husband. Emily's thumb hovered over the screen before reluctantly double-tapping to like the post. "Must be nice," she muttered, setting her phone down with more force than necessary. At 28, Emily Parker had always imagined herself living a different life by now. Luxury vacations, a penthouse apartment, designer clothes that weren't purchased from outlet stores. Instead, she was living in a modest 2-bedroom apartment with Jake, her boyfriend of 2 years, who seemed perfectly content with their comfortable but decidedly middle-class existence. The front door clicked open, and Jake walked in, his dark hair slightly messy from the morning breeze, carrying a small paper bag from their favorite local bakery. "Morning, beautiful. I grabbed those almond croissants you love," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. His eyes crinkled when he smiled, a feature that had initially drawn Emily to him when they met at a mutual friend's birthday party. "Thanks," she replied, trying to mask her sour mood. Jake was kind, thoughtful, and unfailingly reliable, all qualities that should make him the perfect boyfriend. Except for one glaring issue: his lack of ambition when it came to financial success. Jake worked as a software developer at a small tech company, making a decent salary that covered his half of their expenses, with a bit left over for savings. He dressed simply in jeans and button-downs, drove a modest 5-year-old Honda, and seemed genuinely happy with their weekly date nights at neighborhood restaurants, rather than the Michelin-starred establishments. Emily scrolled past on social media. "I thought we could go hiking this weekend," Jake said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "The weather's supposed to be perfect, and I found this trail, with an amazing viewpoint about an hour drive from here." Emily forced a smile. "Maybe. I have that work event on Saturday. Remember? The charity gala for the Harrington Foundation." As a marketing coordinator for a luxury real estate firm, Emily occasionally got to glimpse the life she coveted, attending events in penthouses and mansion ballrooms, rubbing shoulders with the wealthy elite of the city. These events were her window into the world she desperately wanted to be a part of. "Right. I forgot about that." Jake nodded, taking a bite of his croissant. "Do you want me to come with you? I could dust off my suit." The thought of Jake in his only suit, a navy blue ensemble he'd purchased for his college graduation 5 years ago, standing among the custom-tailored tuxedos and designer gowns, made Emily cringe internally. "No need," she said quickly. "It's just work stuff." "It would be boring for you." Jake shrugged, seemingly unbothered. "All right, maybe we can do the hike on Sunday then." Later that day, during her lunch break, Emily met her best friend Melissa at an overpriced salad place near her office. As they settled into their seats with their $15 bowls of greens, Emily couldn't hold back anymore. "I don't know how much longer I can do this, Mel," she sighed, pushing a piece of avocado around with her fork. Melissa arched an eyebrow. "Let me guess, Jake again? He brought me a croissant this morning and suggested we go hiking this weekend." "Hiking, Melissa?" Meanwhile, Vanessa is posting pictures from her 3rd luxury vacation this year, and Vanessa's husband works 80 hours a week and barely sees her. Melissa pointed out, "Jake actually, spends time with you and cares about your happiness." Emily rolled her eyes. "I know Jake is nice. Everyone knows Jake is nice. My mother loves reminding me how nice Jake is. But nice doesn't pay for the lifestyle I want." "Have you talked to him about his career goals? Maybe he could look for a higher paying job." "We've had that conversation so many times," Emily groaned. "He always says the same thing, that he likes his current job, he has a good work-life balance, and money isn't everything. He has no desire to climb the corporate ladder or start his own business or do anything that could actually make us wealthy." Melissa studied her friend closely. What's really going on here? 2 years ago, you were head over heels for this guy. You used to tell me how refreshing it was to be with someone who wasn't obsessed with status and money." Emily stared out the window at the people passing by, some in business attire that screamed success, others looking decidedly average. "I guess I thought he would change. Or that I could help him see that he could be doing so much more with his skills, but he's just, and I'm starting to feel stuck with him." The truth was more complicated than Emily wanted to admit. Her parents' divorce when she was 16 had left a mark on her. Her mother had always depended on her father financially, and when he left for a younger woman, Emily watched her mother struggle to rebuild her life with limited job experience and no financial safety net. She had vowed never to be in that position, never to be vulnerable, never to depend on someone else for security. "Well, you're coming to the gala tomorrow, right?" Emily asked, changing the subject. Melissa worked as an event coordinator for the same real estate firm. "Of course. Someone has to make sure everything runs smoothly," Melissa replied. "And speaking of the gala, rumor has it that Maxwell Reed will be there." Emily nearly choked on her water. "The Maxwell Reed? The real estate tycoon?" "The very same. Apparently he's looking to invest in some new properties in the city." Maxwell Reed was a legend in their industry. 42 years old, devastatingly handsome, and worth hundreds of millions according to business magazines. He'd built his fortune from the ground up, turning a small inheritance into a vast real estate empire spanning 3 continents. "I need to make sure I meet him," Emily said, her mind already racing with possibilities. This could be an amazing networking opportunity. Melissa gave her a knowing look. "Networking? Right? I'm serious. Someone like him could be a game changer for my career. Just be careful, Em. Men like Maxwell Reed have women throwing themselves at them constantly. And aren't you, in a relationship?" Emily picked at her salad, avoiding her friend's gaze. "I'm just talking about making a professional connection. That's all." But as they finished their lunch and headed back to the office, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Maxwell Reed and how different her life might be if she were with someone like him instead of Jake. That evening, as Jake prepared a simple pasta dinner in their kitchen, humming along to the music playing from his phone, Emily sat at their small dining table, scrolling through Maxwell Reed's Instagram page. Private jets, yacht parties, mansions in multiple countries. This was the life she had always envisioned for herself. "Food's ready," Jake announced, setting a plate of spaghetti carbonara in front of her. "I use that pancetta from the Italian market you like." Emily quickly closed Instagram and set down her phone. "Thanks, it looks great." Jake sat across from her, his expression earnest. "Everything okay? You seem distracted." "Just work stuff," she lied. "Big event tomorrow. You're going to be amazing, as always." He reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "I'm really proud of how hard you work, Guilt flickered through Emily's chest, but she pushed it away. Jake's pride in her modest career achievements felt almost patronizing when she compared herself to people like Maxwell Reed or the wealthy clients her firm catered to. "I actually got some good news today," Jake said between bites. "Remember that side project I've been working on? The team is making really great progress. It might turn into something bigger down the line." "That's nice," Emily replied automatically, having long since stopped paying close attention to Jake's various coding projects. They all seemed to blend together, abstract tech concepts that never translated to any significant change in their financial situation. Jake's face fell slightly at her lack of enthusiasm. But he quickly recovered. "Anyway, I was thinking maybe this summer we could take that road trip up the coast we've been talking about. We could stay at some nice bed and breakfasts, explore the small towns along the way." A road trip. Bed and breakfasts. Small towns. The modest scale of Jake's dreams suddenly felt suffocating to Emily. "Maybe," she said non-committally. "Let's see how the next few months go." Later that night, as Jake slept peacefully beside her, Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would be in the same room as Maxwell Reed and others like him, people who lived the life she craved, and here she was, trapped in a relationship with a man whose greatest ambition seemed to be a comfortable work-life balance and weekend hiking trips. She turned to look at Jake's sleeping form, his features relaxed, his breathing steady. He was handsome in an approachable way, with his warm brown eyes and easy smile. 2 years ago that had been enough. Now she couldn't help but wonder if she was settling for less than she deserved. Morning couldn't come fast enough. As Emily slipped out of bed to prepare for the day, she felt a strange sense of anticipation, as if standing on the precipice of a life-changing decision. The charity gala wasn't just another work event, it felt like an opportunity, a glimpse into a different future. A future that might not include Jake. The Harrington Foundation Charity Gala exceeded even Emily's expectations. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the grand ballroom of the city's most exclusive hotel, casting a golden glow over the guests in their designer evening wear. Emily had spent 2 weeks' worth of her disposable income on a red satin dress that hugged her curves perfectly, determined to look like she belonged among the elite. "There he is," Melissa whispered, subtly nodding toward the entrance. "Maxwell Reed, 3 o'clock. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Maxwell was even more impressive in person. Tall and commanding in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, with salt and pepper hair that made him look distinguished rather than old. He carried himself with the unmistakable confidence of a man who had conquered the world. "I need to meet him," Emily murmured, smoothing down her dress. "Just remember why we're here, to represent the firm." Melissa cautioned, but Emily was already plotting her approach. It took nearly an hour of strategic mingling before Emily found herself standing near Maxwell at the bar. Taking a deep breath, she seized her moment. "The Westwood project was quite impressive," she said, referencing his company's latest development. "The integration of sustainable elements, while maintaining luxury aesthetics, sets a new standard." Maxwell turned, his piercing blue eyes appraising her with interest. "You follow real estate development. It's more than a career, it's a passion," Emily replied with practiced poise. One conversation led to another, and by the end of the evening Emily had Maxwell's personal number in her phone and an invitation to dinner the following week to discuss potential collaborations. When she returned home that night, Jake was waiting up for her. A movie paused on their television. "How was it?" he asked, making room for her on the couch. "Fine," Emily replied distractedly, her mind still reeling from her encounter with Maxwell. "Just the usual networking. I ordered your favorite takeout, but you didn't answer my texts. I saved you some in the fridge." Emily felt a pang of guilt at the hurt in Jake's voice, but it was quickly overshadowed by irritation. "I was working, Jake. I can't be checking my phone every 5 minutes." "You've been distant lately," Jake said, turning to face her fully. "What's going on with us?" The question hung in the air between them, and suddenly Emily couldn't contain her frustration anymore. "Do you ever want more than this?" she asked, gesturing around their modest apartment. "Don't you have any ambition beyond your current job?" Jake's expression hardened. "We've talked about this. I like my work. I'm good at it. I'm developing skills and working on projects that matter to me. But we're never going to get ahead this way." Emily's voice rose. "I'm tired of watching other people live the life I want while we're stuck in this mediocrity. So that's what this is about? You're unhappy because I don't make enough money for you?" Jake stood up, hurt evident in his eyes. "I thought we were building something meaningful together. Something real." "Real doesn't pay for the future I want," Emily shot back. "I've tried to be patient, Jake, but you're holding me back. I can't do this anymore." The words hung in the air, sharp and irretrievable. Jake stared at her, his expression shifting from hurt to resigned understanding. "I see," he said quietly. "I always worried I wasn't enough for you. I guess now I know." 2 weeks later, Emily had moved out of their shared apartment and into a sleek studio in a trendy downtown building. Her dinner with Maxwell had turned into regular dates, each more extravagant than the last. Rooftop restaurants with panoramic city views, champagne in private lounges, a weekend getaway to his beach house in a chauffeur-driven Bentley. Maxwell was everything Jake wasn't: decisive, powerful, and unashamed of his wealth. When he wanted something, he took it, a quality that both intimidated and thrilled Emily. "You deserve the finer things in life," he told her one evening, as he fastened a diamond bracelet around her wrist, a just-because gift that cost more than her monthly salary. "Someone as beautiful as you shouldn't settle for ordinary." Emily reveled in her new reality. Her social media pages filled with glimpses of her upgraded life: designer shopping bags, exclusive restaurants, the interior of Maxwell's luxury cars. She received envious messages from acquaintances, and even Melissa seemed impressed despite her initial reservations. "You look happy," her friend commented over drinks at an upscale bar. Maxwell had recommended. "Is he treating you well?" "He's amazing," Emily gushed. "Last week he flew us to Chicago just for dinner at this incredible restaurant." Can you imagine Jake ever doing something like that? Jake had all but disappeared from her life. He'd moved out of their apartment, without drama, leaving her share of the security deposit in their joint account before closing it. His social media accounts went quiet, and mutual friends reported he'd taken a new job and moved away, though no one seemed to know where. Emily told herself she'd made the right decision. The luxury, the excitement, the envious glances, this was what she had always wanted. If sometimes late at night, she found herself missing the sound of Jake's laughter or the way he could sense her bad moods before she spoke a word, well, that was a small price to pay for the life she now lived. Her future with Maxwell stretched before her like a golden road, and she was determined to follow it wherever it led. 3 months into her relationship with Maxwell, the shine of luxury began to dull. Emily sat alone at an elegant restaurant table, checking her watch for the third time in 15 minutes. Maxwell was late again, an increasingly common occurrence that she was expected to accept without complaint. "Miss Parker, would you like to order now or continue waiting?" the waiter asked, his tone carefully neutral despite this being the 4th time he'd approached her solitary table. "Just another glass of wine, please," Emily replied, forcing a smile. "I'm sure Mr. Reed will arrive any minute." An hour later, Maxwell finally swept in, not bothering to apologize as he sat down and immediately began checking emails on his phone. "I ordered you the steak," Emily said, having finally given in and ordered their meal 20 minutes earlier. "I told you I'm trying to cut back on red meat," Maxwell replied without looking up. "Cancel it and get me the sea bass," Emily signaled the waiter, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. This was how things went with Maxwell. His preferences always took precedence. His schedule dictated their lives, and her thoughts or feelings were secondary considerations at best. "How was your day?" she asked, trying to establish some normalcy. Maxwell finally set down his phone with a sigh that suggested the question itself was an imposition. "Dealing with incompetent people, as usual. The development in Singapore is behind schedule, because some environmental group is making noise." He took a long sip of the wine she'd ordered. "Mediocre selection," he commented, though it was a two. Emily's mind drifted to the picnics she used to have with Jake in the park, where they'd drink $15 wine from plastic cups and laugh for hours about nothing and everything. Jake had never made her feel small or insignificant. "I was thinking," she ventured carefully, "maybe we could take a weekend just for us? No work calls or meetings. There's this charming little town on the coast." "Emily," Maxwell cut her off with an impatient gesture, "I don't do charming little towns. If you want a getaway, I'll have my assistant book the suite at the Four Seasons, in Maui. But it'll have to wait until after the Hong Kong deal closes." He didn't ask if Maui was where she wanted to go or if his timeline worked for her. Later that night, in Maxwell's penthouse apartment, a place where she spent most nights but still didn't have a key, Emily found herself unable to sleep. The bedroom was impeccably designed, like something from an architectural magazine, but sterile and impersonal. Maxwell slept soundly beside her, having paid little attention to her after they returned from dinner, focused instead on work calls, until he decided it was time for perfunctory intimacy. That left Emily feeling more like an accessory than a partner. She slipped out of bed and wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the glittering city below. This view, this apartment, the clothes in the closet that Maxwell had selected for her, these were the things she had convinced herself would make her happy. But happiness had proven more elusive than expected. The next morning over breakfast, Maxwell informed her of their weekend plans. "We're attending the Carmichael Foundation dinner Saturday night. Wear the blue gown I bought you last month. It photographs well and the Vogue photographer will be there. Actually, I promised Melissa I'd go to her birthday dinner Saturday," Emily said, trying to assert some independence. "She's my best friend." Emily, Maxwell's tone was that of a parent addressing a difficult child. "The Carmichaels control 3 development boards I need on my side. This isn't optional." His eyes narrowed. "Besides, that friend of yours, the event planner, she's hardly the type of connection that's useful to either of us." The casual cruelty of his dismissal stunned her into silence. Over the following days, Emily began noticing patterns she'd previously ignored. How Maxwell spoke condescendingly to service staff. How he expected her to be available at his whim but never extended the same courtesy. How he subtly isolated her from friends he deemed beneath their level. Her wake-up call came during a charity auction, where Maxwell bid an obscene amount on a sports car, then later that same evening refused to donate to a children's hospital because, as he put it, that's what taxes are for. The callousness shocked her, and for the first time she saw clearly the man she had chosen over Jake. When Melissa called the next day, Emily found herself unexpectedly confessing her doubts. "I miss who I was with Jake," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "Maxwell makes me feel like an ornament, not a partner. I have everything I thought I wanted, but you're miserable," Melissa finished for her. "Have you tried contacting Jake?" Emily had, multiple times. She'd sent apologetic texts that went unanswered, called a number that was eventually disconnected, and even driven by their old apartment only to find new tenants. Jake had vanished from her life as completely as if he'd never existed. "He's gone, Mel. I think he moved out of state." "Maybe that's for the best," Melissa said gently. "You hurt him pretty badly, Em." The truth of those words settled heavily on Emily's shoulders. She had treated Jake callously, discarding their relationship for the allure of wealth and status. Now, trapped in a gilded cage with a man who saw her as merely another acquisition, she understood the true cost of her choice. That night, as Maxwell critiqued her appearance before another high society event, Emily gazed at her reflection in the mirror: designer dress, professional makeup, expensive jewelry, and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. She had everything she thought she wanted, and nothing that she truly needed. 6 months into her relationship with Maxwell, Emily received an unexpected email from her company's CEO. The annual corporate gala was approaching, the company's biggest event of the year where all branches gathered to celebrate achievements and announce new initiatives. All senior staff are required to attend, the email emphasized. This year's keynote speaker is a special surprise, a major industry figure who will be announcing a partnership that will transform our company's future. Emily had been considering resigning from her position. Working while being Maxwell's girlfriend had become increasingly complicated, especially since he occasionally did business with her firm and made no secret of their relationship, leaving her colleagues to whisper about favoritism. But the mandatory attendance gave her little choice. "I have to go to this work thing next Friday," she told Maxwell over dinner that evening. He barely glanced up from his phone. "Cancel it? We're having drinks with the Hansons that night." "I can't cancel. It's mandatory, and the CEO specifically included me in the email." Maxwell's jaw tightened with annoyance. "Fine. I'll meet you there afterward. The Hansons are too important to reschedule." On the night of the gala, Emily arrived alone, wearing a simple black dress that felt refreshingly understated after months of Maxwell's preferred flashy styles. The company had rented the grand ballroom of the same hotel where she'd first met Maxwell. A coincidence that felt oddly symbolic. Melissa spotted her immediately. "You came." "I wasn't sure if His Royal Highness would allow it," she said, referring to their private nickname for Maxwell. "He's meeting me later," Emily replied, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "Who's this mystery speaker everyone's buzzing about?" "No idea. Management's been incredibly secretive. Must be someone major." As they chatted, Emily found herself relaxing for the first time in months. Without Maxwell scrutinizing her every interaction, she felt like herself again, laughing freely with colleagues, expressing opinions without fear of contradiction. At 8 o'clock sharp, the lights dimmed and their CEO took the stage. "Tonight, I'm thrilled to announce the most significant partnership in our company's history," he began. 2 years ago, a brilliant young entrepreneur approached us with revolutionary software that would transform how real estate development integrates with sustainable urban planning. That software has since become the industry standard, and tonight, the visionary behind it has agreed to a formal partnership that includes a substantial investment in our firm. Emily sipped her champagne, only half listening, until the CEO's next words snapped her to full attention. "Please welcome to the stage, the founder and CEO of Horizon Innovations, the man Forbes recently called tech's most secretive billionaire, Mr. Jake Mitchell." Emily choked on her champagne, drawing concerned looks from nearby colleagues. It couldn't be her Jake. It had to be a coincidence. Mitchell was a common last name, but when the spotlight illuminated the side of the stage, Emily's glass nearly slipped from her fingers. There stood Jake. Her Jake, dressed in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit that made his shoulders look broader, his stance more commanding. His familiar features were accentuated by a new confidence she'd never seen before, his warm brown eyes surveying the crowd with measured authority. "Thank you all for the warm welcome," Jake began, his voice steady and assured. "Some of you may know me. Others are meeting me for the first time tonight. But all of you have been using Horizon software for the past 18 months, helping us refine what I believe will revolutionize not just real estate, but how we think about integrating technology with environmental responsibility. Emily stood frozen as Jake delivered a compelling presentation about sustainable development technology, complete with impressive projection graphics and statistics. This polished, authoritative speaker bore little resemblance to the modest software developer she'd left behind. 2 years ago, Horizon was just an idea I was coding in my apartment after hours. Jake continued, a small smile playing at his lips. Today we're valued at just over $4 billion, with offices in 7 countries. The crowd erupted in applause while Emily's world tilted on its axis. $4 billion. Jake was a billionaire. The side project he'd mentioned so casually over pasta dinners had become a multi-billion-dollar company, and she had been too dismissive to even ask about it. As Jake concluded his speech to enthusiastic applause, Emily's phone buzzed with a text from Maxwell. Running late, order me a scotch. She ignored it, her eyes fixed on Jake as he shook hands with company executives on stage. He looked happy, fulfilled, everything she had convinced herself he could never be without her guidance. The crowd began to disperse for the networking portion of the evening, and Emily found herself moving toward the stage as if in a trance. Jake had stepped down and was engaged in conversation with a group of admirers, his expression animated as he explained some technical concept. "He's incredible, isn't he?" said a woman next to Emily, watching Jake with open admiration. "I heard he's famously private too, turned down the cover of Forbes, and donates millions anonymously. The ultimate anti-celebrity billionaire." Emily could only nod mutely, memories flooding back. Jake working late nights on his laptop, his excitement about technical breakthroughs she'd barely acknowledged. His contentment with their simple life that she now realized had been a deliberate choice, not a limitation. She had left him because she thought he lacked ambition, when in reality his ambition had simply been directed at something more meaningful than the ostentatious displays of wealth she coveted. And then, as if sensing her presence, Jake looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and for one brief moment, recognition, surprise and something unreadable flickered across his face before his expression settled into polite neutrality. Emily felt her heart stop, then restart with painful intensity. Jake knew she was here, and now she would have to face him and the magnitude of her mistake. Emily's legs felt like lead as she made her way through the crowd toward Jake. Several times people stepped between them, eager to speak with the evening's celebrated keynote speaker, but Emily pressed forward with determination. She had to talk to him. When she finally reached the edge of the circle surrounding Jake, she heard him graciously excusing himself. "If you'll pardon me for a moment," he said to the group, his eyes finding hers again. "There's someone I need to speak with." The crowd parted reluctantly, and suddenly there was nothing between them, just 2 feet of charged space and 6 months of unspoken words. "Jake," Emily breathed, her voice barely audible over the ambient chatter of the gala. "Emily," he replied, his tone controlled and professional. "It's been a while." Up close, the changes in him were even more apparent. He stood taller, his posture radiating quiet confidence. The nervous habit of running his hand through his hair when uncomfortable was gone. This was a man completely at ease in his own skin. "Could we?" She gestured vaguely toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. "Could we talk somewhere?" Jake considered her for a moment, then nodded. 5 minutes. I have investors waiting." He led her to a small alcove, partially sheltered by decorative pillars, offering a semblance of privacy within the busy venue. Emily's mind raced, frantically trying to organize her thoughts, but when Jake turned to face her, all her carefully prepared openings vanished. "You're a billionaire," she blurted out. A hint of the old Jake appeared in his slight smile. "That's what they tell me, though the actual number fluctuates daily with the market. Why didn't you tell me?" The question burst from her like an accusation. Jake's expression hardened slightly. "Would it have made a difference, Emily?" Of course it would have. She regretted the words instantly, seeing how they confirmed exactly what he suspected. "That's what I thought," he said quietly. "The project I mentioned to you repeatedly, the one you never asked about, was Horizon. I was in stealth mode by choice, building something meaningful without the pressure of public scrutiny or expectations." Emily's cheeks burned with shame. I remember you talking about side projects, but you never said it was something this significant. Because its significance wasn't measured in dollars to me, Jake replied, his voice level but intense. I wanted a partner who believed in me regardless of the outcome, who understood that success isn't always about flashy displays of wealth. I did believe in you, Emily protested weakly. Jake's laugh held no humor. No, Emily, you believed I was settling for less than I could achieve. You made that abundantly clear the night you left. He paused, something vulnerable flickering behind his composed exterior. You never once asked what actually mattered to me. The truth of his words hit Emily like a physical blow. She had projected her own values onto Jake, assuming his definition of success aligned with hers. I remember you telling me once about your child, Jake continued more gently. How your father left your mother financially vulnerable, and how determined you were never to experience that kind of insecurity. Emily nodded, throat tight with emotion. She hadn't realized he'd been listening so carefully. I respected that fear, Emily. That's why I was building something substantial, security that couldn't be taken away. But I didn't want wealth to define me or my relationships. So all those times when you seemed content with our simple life, I was content, Jake confirmed. I enjoyed our life together, the apartment, the local restaurants, weekend hikes. Those weren't compromises for me, they were choices. While I was busy coveting designer clothes and luxury vacations, Emily said, the full weight of her superficiality crashing down on her. Jake shrugged. We valued different things. There's no crime in that. The problem was that you couldn't accept me as I presented myself. You were always looking for some imagined potential, instead of seeing what was already there. Emily felt tears threatening and blinked them back. I've realized that too late, obviously, but she took a deep breath. Jake, I am so sorry for everything. For not appreciating what we had, for treating you the way I did. His expression softened slightly. I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, I don't harbor any resentment. Our relationship taught me a lot about myself and what I want in a partner. Emily sensed an opening, a possibility. Maybe we could. Jake shook his head, cutting her off gently but firmly. No, Emily, I've moved on. What we had is in the past, where it belongs. The finality in his voice closed something inside her. She nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. My 5 minutes are up, Jake said, checking his watch, an old-fashioned timepiece rather than the designer watch his wealth could easily afford. I should get back. Of course. Emily managed. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished. You deserve all of it. Jake looked at her for a long moment, as if making peace with their shared history. I hope you find what you're looking for, Emily. I really do. As he walked away, returning to the admiring crowd with a genuine smile, Emily stood alone in the alcove, facing the consequences of choices made for all the wrong reasons. Her phone buzzed again, Maxwell, demanding to know where his scotch was. Emily stared at the message, seeing it, and the man who sent it, with new clarity. Emily stared at Maxwell's demanding text message until the screen went dark. When she looked up, the gala continued around her. Glasses clinking, laughter rippling through conversations, deals being made with handshakes. In the center of it all stood Jake, now engaged in animated discussion with a group of executives, his expression open and genuine. Another message from Maxwell lit up her phone. Where the hell are you? I've been waiting 20 minutes. For the first time since they'd met, Emily didn't rush to respond. Instead, she slipped her phone into her clutch and made her way to the bar, where she ordered a glass of water instead of Maxwell's scotch. She needed clarity, not alcohol. So that was the famous Jake, Melissa said, appearing at her side. I saw you two talking. You knew? Emily asked, not really surprised. I found out a few weeks ago when preparations for tonight's event began. I wanted to tell you, but… Melissa shrugged. I figured it wasn't my place. No, you were right. Emily took a sip of water. I needed to see it for myself. And he's exactly who he always was, just with a bigger bank account than I realized. Emily's voice caught. He was building something meaningful all along, and I was too blind to see it. What happened with you two? Emily shook her head, watching Jake across the room. He's moved on. Can't say I blame him. Her phone buzzed yet again. Maxwell, now calling. Emily silenced it and turned back to Melissa. I need to go deal with something. Can you cover for me with the team? Melissa squeezed her arm supportively. Take all the time you need. Emily found Maxwell at the hotel bar scowling into an empty glass. When he spotted her, his expression darkened further. Finally decided to show up? I've been waiting. We need to talk. Emily cut him off, sliding onto the bar stool beside him. Maxwell raised an eyebrow, not accustomed to being interrupted. About your rudeness? Yes, we do. I don't appreciate being kept waiting like some. No, Maxwell, about us. This isn't working. The words came out with surprising ease. Excuse me? His tone was dangerous, quiet. I'm ending our relationship. Emily maintained steady eye contact, no longer intimidated by his status or wealth. We want different things. Maxwell's expression cycled rapidly through disbelief, anger, and finally calculated charm. Emily, darling, you're being absurd. Is this about that keynote speaker, your ex-boyfriend who apparently hit it big? Because if you think you can go running back to him now that he has money. This isn't about Jake or his money, Emily said firmly. It's about me finally understanding what I really value. And it's not this. She gestured between them. Maxwell's facade cracked, his true nature emerging. You're making a mistake. Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position? Then find one of them. Emily stood up, oddly calm. I'm going back to the gala. Please don't follow me. If you walk away now, don't expect to come crawling back, Maxwell called after her, his voice raising enough to draw stares from nearby patrons. Emily didn't look back. 3 weeks later, Emily sat in a quiet cafe, reviewing resumes. After leaving Maxwell, she'd also resigned from her position at the real estate firm, unwilling to leverage connections that reminded her of choices made for the wrong reasons. Starting over at 30 wasn't easy, but there was something refreshing about rebuilding her life, based on what truly mattered to her. Her new apartment was modest but bright, filled with books and plants rather than designer items. Her bank account was considerably smaller without Maxwell's extravagant gifts, but she slept better at night. Mind if I join you? Emily looked up, surprised to see Melissa sliding into the chair across from her. I thought you had meetings all day, Emily said, closing her laptop. I did. One of them was with Jake Mitchell. Melissa smiled at Emily's startled expression. Horizon is partnering with a nonprofit I volunteer with, providing free technology education for underprivileged kids. That sounds exactly like something Jake would do, Emily said softly. He asked about you, Melissa continued carefully. Wanted to know how you were doing. Emily's heart skipped, but she tamped down the hope. And what did you tell him? The truth, that you're rebuilding, that you left Maxwell and your job, that you're figuring out what really matters to you. Melissa reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. He's looking for a marketing director for Horizon's new foundation, someone who understands both the corporate world and has perspective on what truly matters. She slid the card across the table. The contact person is his assistant, but he said to tell you the position might align with your skills. Emily stared at the card. Is this pity? From what I can tell, Jake Mitchell doesn't do pity. I think it's an opportunity, one you've earned by making hard choices and growing from them. Later that evening, as Emily sat on her small balcony watching the sunset, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had sought fulfillment in wealth and status, only to discover that what she truly valued, integrity, purpose, genuine connection, couldn't be bought at any price. She held Jake's business card, turning it over in her fingers. Whether this opportunity led to reconciliation or simply a new professional chapter, she was grateful for the chance to move forward with clearer vision. Emily had learned the hardest lesson of all. True wealth wasn't measured in dollars but in how you valued yourself and others. It was a lesson she wouldn't forget again.